Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches CHULLIN Daf Samach Beis. We begin on Samach Aleph on Beis on the very bottom line. Back to the birds. Amar Rav Nachman Hoya Baki Bohen U Bishmoisein. If an individual is an expert, he's well versed in those birds. Which birds are we talking about? Rashi says we're going back to Peres and Oznia, which we mentioned yesterday. Those were two birds that have only one siman each, one kosher sign per bird. So he knows what the Peres and the Oznia look like, and he knows that the bird in front of him is neither of the above. Ubish Moisein, likewise. He knows the names of birds, so he knows which bird is part of the Peres and or Oznia species. Okay, so he knows what is and what isn't. So this fellow, if he encounters a bird that features one kosher sign, he knows it's okay, because as we concluded yesterday, you don't need all the kosher signs to be kosher. There are 4 possible kosher signs in total. You don't need all of them. Even one is enough, provided you're not confusing them with the Peres and the Oznia, which have just one kosher sign and are not kosher. There are exceptions to the rule, right? Just as the Oirev, which has 2 kosher signs, is a further exception to the rule. 2 signs of kosher, but it's not kosher, etc., etc. Continues Rav Nachman, suppose he's not an expert, and he encounters the bird that has only one simon tahara. B'simon echad is tami, because this bird may very well be the Peres, maybe the Oznia, but that's only a concern if it's one simon. He might have confused it with the Peres and Oznia, which he's not familiar with. But if the bird that he encounters has 2 simonim of tahara, b'shnei simonim, then he knows it's not the Peres nor the Oznia, then it's tahar, provided that he's familiar with the Oirev, which has 2 simonim and is tamei, v'hu shiakir Oirev. But if he's familiar with the Oirev, and he knows this is not the Oirev, then he's okay. Asks the Gemara, why is that enough? Oirev? As long as he knows what the Oirev looks like, that's enough. Asulai, he need not be familiar with the other birds of Atanya. We have a brisa. The pasuk says, Eis kol Oirev liminoi. The Oirev is off limits, the raven and its ilk. The brisa learns Oirev means the Oirev, that's the actual raven. What does Leminoi coming to include? Rabbi Lezer Omer Lahavi es hazarzer. It covers the zarzir as well, a similar bird, which Rashi calls Ishturnil. And that also is a non-kosher bird, despite technically not really being an Oirev. Amrullah Rabbi Lezer Racham responded to him, Anshi Kfar Tamarti, the people living in Kfar Tamarti should be Yehuda in the Yehuda territory. They would eat these zarzir because they feature a kosher sign. They have the crop, which is one of the kosher simanim. Amar Lahem, he says, they're in bad shape. Afhain, those people there, they're going to pay. And they go up to Shamayim. They're going to be accounted for it. Why? So interesting. Rashi brings the Gemara Baba Kama, where Rabbi Lezer explained further what his position is based on. He says, you know what? Ironically, the zarzir hangs out with the Oirev, and it's not for nothing. Lo yalchinam halach zarzir eitzel Oirev. There's no. It's not for naught that the zarzir is hanging out with the Oirev. Elo neshu minoi. It's only because he's part of the same family. He's part of this same species. It belongs there. That's why he's considered as part of the Oirev group of birds, and he's tummy. So guilty by association. Davar acher. The brisa continues. Another explanation in Liminehu. Ulaminai, which is by the extra word by the Erev. Lahavi snunis labana, to include the white snunis, which is also from the Erev family, and it's tamei. Again, that's Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Amr loy chacham respond. Again, the people in the upper Galilee, they would eat this bird because he has a peeling gizzard, which is a siman tahara. Why are you considering it tamei? Amr lam, he says, they're going to pay for it. They're going to be held accountable for eating this non-kosher bird. Bottom line is that when the Torah singles out the Erev, it's not strictly the Erev. It's anything that's, part of the Erev species. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it extends to these two birds. According to Chachamim, to different types. So when you're familiar with just the actual raven, the original raven itself, who says that's enough to rule out other members of the raven family? Says the Gemara, you're right. Ella Oirev, when the Rav Nachman told us that as long as he's familiar with the Oirev and he rules that out, knowing that what he has in front of him is not the Oirev, that is sufficient. Ella Oirev v'chol min Oirev. He meant to say the Oirev and its ilk, anything part of the Oirev species, the Oirev variety. Once he's familiar with those and he knows this is not those, he's okay. Amar Ameimar. Hilchasa. What's the halacha l'maisa? Oif haba b'siman echad tar, right? An oif that features just one kosher quality is tar. With loy daris, provided he's not a daris. He doesn't, grab his prey with his hands, So that is going to be a sign of kosher. Now, Tosfos explains, what I meant to say is that the siman echad that he's finding in this bird here is the fact that he's not a doris. Because otherwise, if he has one siman tahara plus that he's not a doris, so in total he has two, so maybe he's the Oirev who has two siman tahara and is still tamei. That's why Tosfos learns that it's just one siman, which is that he's not a doris. Now the question is, maybe he's one of the other birds that has one siman and is still tamei, like the paras and the ozniya. We'll get to that in a minute. Amalei Rav Ashi la Meimar. So Rav Ashi asked Meimar, Hadar Rav Nachman Mai. How are you going to? What are you going to do with Rav Nachman's presentation? Rav Nachman told us earlier, you can't just rely on one siman. Maybe it's the paras, maybe it says no. You have to be familiar with those birds and rule them out before you eat this bird. Amalei says Lishmiele. I never heard what he said. Kalei meant to say Loisvirli. I don't agree with it. Sometimes you say, I don't hear. It means to say, I'm not internalizing. I'm not really accepting it. Ma'ika, what's the concern? What are you worried about? Mishum paras v'ozniya. Perhaps this bird that has one siman is the paras and ozniya, which has one siman and is tamei. Well, you know what? We're talking, in an urban area. Less no b'yishuv. Those two birds are not found in urban areas, so that they're not really part of the equation. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, if I'm a sarit, scratching bird, more like a wild type of bird, which instead of cutting through his prey, cutting through the meat, just scrapes and scratches. That's the tzipor dror, the famous bird that is used for the metzora in his purification process. That's meant to be used as part of the metzora's purification process. And this has another name called snunus lavana, the white snunus, which is actually subject to the machlokes mentioned a minute ago between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. Shenechel kuba, Rabbi Eliezer v'Chachamim, right? Rabbi Eliezer was the one who says that it's actually from the Oirev family. It's not a kosher bird. It can't be used for the metzora, whereas the Chacham say it's okay. Now, we're going to see there are two variations of this bird. Amar Meimar, bechivra kresa, the one with the white belly. Kuli amli pili l'shar. You all agree this is a kosher bird, and kiplika b'direika kresa. The machlokes is, the dispute revolves around the one with the yellowish, the greenish belly, which is in a way more similar to the original raven, which is dark colored than black. Rabbi Elazar Asar, he says it's Asar, that's part of the raven family. Rabbanan Shora, they allow it. Vilchasa, Rabbi Elazar, we pass on Rabbi Elazar that actually is considered a non-kosher bird. Ma'azutra, however, Masniach, he had a different version of this machlekes. But the Yeroika Kresa, the one with the greenish belly, Kuli Am Malay Pligi de Asar, all agree. That's part of the raven family, and all agree it is Asar. Ki Pligi b'de Chivra Kresa, machlekes revolves around the white-bellied one. Rabbi Elazar Asar, he says it's also part of the raven family. But Rabbanan Sharu, they say no, it's too dissimilar. It's a different bird. It's okay. It's kosher. Velchas Rabbanan the Sharu. And here we pass like the Rabbanan, that's okay. Says the Morishlam the Amar b'chivra kresa pligi. Now, according to the second version, that the machlekes relates to the white-bellied one. Hainu diktani zuis nunus lavana. So that explains the wording of the brisa mentioned earlier, which discussed the machlekes between Rabbi Elazar and Chachamim, and on the word leminai it said that's the snunus lavana, because that actual bird is the item on which they were disputing. El man da'amar b'dirake pligi. But according to the first version, machlekes is only on the Yeroika one, but the snunus lavana all agree is okay. Mai zohi snunus lavana. Why did the brisa relate to this problematic, questionable bird, which is the greenish one? Why did it call it the white one? Mai zohi snunus lavana. Says the more you're right. The brisa did refer to the greenish one. Lafuki de bati de uchmasi. The brisa was just contrasting this one to the ones that are found in the homes and within the walls of the home, the high in the walls. The uchmasi that are just stark black, and this one is a lighter colored one. It's greenish, so the brisa related to it as white because it's light colored relative to the pure black. But of course, we're not speaking about the white-bellied one. We're speaking about the greenish one, because the white-bellied one, all agree, is a different species, and it's okay. Amar Rachab. Okay, so we move on. Proceed with some more names and descriptions of birds, determining which ones are kosher, which ones aren't. Amar Rachaba, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So Rachaba quotes Rabbi Yehuda. Tassel, a certain type of bird called a tassel. You should know, he belongs to the Bnei Yaina family. For karbanos, one may only use two types of birds, Teirin and Bnei Yaina. Teirin are brought when they're more, fully grown, mature. Bnei Yaina, two different types of birds. But Bnei Yaina can only be used when they're young. These pigeons are only used when they're young as karbanos, but once they get to the point of maturing, yellowing, we learned that a while ago, they're pasul, versus Teirin, just the opposite. This type of, this variety can only be used once it, fully grows and matures. Says Rabbi Yehuda, the tassel, you should know, he's of the Bnei Yaina family, and therefore he's only kosher of her carbon when he's young. Tassel is pasul mishum teirin. He's not regarded as teirin. The kosher mishum Bnei Yaina, he's only kosher as a Ben Yaina, which means to say, when he's mature, he's too big. He's not treated as a teir, which is okay when it's mature. Rather, he's classified as a Ben Yaina, which is only acceptable when he's young. A bird called datzifi, who's actually from the Teirin family, and also the Teirin shel Rachava, different type of Teirin, Ksherin, the kosher when they're big, Mishum Teirin, on account of the fact that they're part of the Teirin family. Psulim Mishum Bnei Yaina, but not kosher when they're small, like the Bnei Yaina. Mosif, Rav Daniel bar Rav Katin. I have a question. There's a Mishnah Maseches Para. So you're telling me that the tassel is part of the Yaina family, right? Here comes a Mishnah. Kol ha'oifais poislin, we turn to Talmud Bavli, poislin ben chatos. So this is the water, the paraduma water. If a bird came and drank from it, problem is, if you would just suck one way, it would be okay. But since they drink and they drip back and there's an exchange of liquid, that liquid which comes back from the bird, right? The bird picks it up with his beak and it drips out. That water has been contained in the bird's mechanism, and once it gets back into the paraduma water, it gets mixed in and makes it puzzle. So any bird that drinks paisel mechatas and validates the whole mechatas, the whole paraduma water, except for the pigeon, because that only sucks like a straw, just sucks without sending anything back. So now if the tussle is part of the yoina family, let's assume, and its behavior as well conforms to the yoina method of drinking, listening, the Mishnah should add and say chutz, all birds are problematic except for miyoina, right? V'tassel, and tassel as well. On Rab Zera, no, even though he's part of the family, but doesn't have the same table manners as the rest of the Bnei Yoina. On Rab Zera, zeh moitzitz umeki. The tassel, although he sucks, but he does spit back a bit. V'zeh moitzitz umeki, as opposed to the regular Yoina, who just sucks in and does not spit back. Amar Rav Yehuda, hani kufshani tzutziani. Kufshani are from the Torim family, and they're from a place called Tzutziani. They're acceptable as a carbon ksherim l'gavim mizbech vehenein, and they have another name. They're the Torim shel Rechava that we mentioned a minute ago. Meisvei comes a kasha. Once they have this sort of added name, this nickname, Tzutziani, that should invalidate them. So disqualify them from carbon. You need the original Torah. No generic knockoff brands. Meisvei, we have a kasha from a brisa. Ezoiv. The Torah many times mentions the need for an ezoiv, a certain type of grass, used for the mitzvah, used for the, paraduma. And we learn ezoiv means the one and the original one, no copies. V'loi ezoiv yoin, not the ezoiv yoin. V'loi ezoiv koichle, the other one. V'loi, not the ezoiv roimi. V'loi midbari. V'loi kol ezoiv sheyesh Hashem livoi, nor any other ezoiv that has any add-on or descriptive. No, it's got to be the original one. So how can you use this off-brand Torah? Amar Abaye, I'll tell you why. It's true that the Torah, by stating ezoiv repeatedly in a way that teaches us that it's got to be just a pure ezoiv, that rules out any other type that was present at that time at Matan Torah when the halacha, when the psukim were stated. I want this, says the Torah, and not the other one. So the pure ezoiv, not the copy. But this new variety of Torah, they weren't around at that point. They didn't have this extra name, right? Right. So this off-brand wasn't there, and was not accepted from the halacha. There was no exception. There was no ruling out of that other one which wasn't there yet. Any type of material which got this sort of added name before Matan Torah, of Torah, and then the Torah comes and says and specifies, no, only ezoiv, not ezoiv yain, and the conclusion is yesh le'shem livu is puzzle. So an item with that added name is puzzle, but these birds lo nishtanu shmon koidem Matan Torah. Their name wasn't altered before Matan Torah. It's only later that they got added. That name got added. So the Torah did not rule it out, and therefore they're okay. Rava Amar. Here comes another Torah. Says Rava, you know what? They're not really mislabeled. It's just sort of a descriptive term, relates to where they grow. Hani kufshani tzutziani. No, these birds, we call them tzutziani because they come from tzutziani. But in tzutziani, go there, visit there. They just call them regular tutorim. Basrayu in their place, in their habitat, stama karilu. They're just called plain bird, plain Torah. So it's not really an added name. It's just a descriptive term used by people outside that city. And therefore it's not considered Shem Livoi. It's the original Torah that are kosher. Amar Rav Yehuda, Hani Krazi, certain type of grasshoppers, the Vei Chilfi, that are found amongst the thorns, Shara, they're part of the kosher variety, or the Vei Karvi, but the ones that are found in the cabbage, Asir, they're Asr. They're not of the kosher variety. In fact, if a person eats this second grasshopper, he gets malchus, as though he ate a non-kosher creature. There's no question that it's Asr. Amar Rav Yehuda, Tzrada, Shari. A bird called Tzrada is okay. It's of the kosher family. But barda, no, that's asr. V'simanech, a goy to remember. Bar minei. Bar minei means aside from it, get it out of the way. So barda is bar, out of the way. That's asr. A bird called marda, well, that's a question mark, sveika. Omar v'asi. In fact, we have shmoina sveika saying there are a total of 8 questionable birds whose status is unknown. Chuva, chuga, suga, v'harnuga, tushlimi, umarda, kecholna, uvarnafcha. My spekai, what's the question on these birds? The answer is like this. Oivay stahirim, kurkuvana niklav. So the question on the question is, we have those absolute kosher signs. Go check. What's the question? The answer is like this. A kosher bird has his kurkuvan, his gizzard, his stomach, is niklav. You can hand peel the layers. But these birds, v'tmein, versus a non-kosher bird, ain't kurkuvan niklav, their kurkuvan is not peeled at all. It doesn't come apart. V'hani. And these 8 birds, well, they're somewhere in the middle. It peels, but not easily. Kurkuvan and niklav, you can peel the layers off the stomach, b'sakina, by using a knife only. So that's the question. Does it count or not? The fact is, it does separate, but with a bit of effort. So is it considered kosher or not? Says the Gemara, how can you suggest that if it doesn't peel easily, it's a problem? Well, there was this young duckling, Dava Bey Marshmol, by Shmuel's place. They couldn't peel its kurkuvan. So what do? He put it out in the sun till it softened. It came in the rough. Once it softened, they peeled it. Apparently, even if it comes with difficulty, it's still okay. Yeah, difference is over there when it softened, it peeled manually. But here by these birds, even if you let it sit and soften, it only peels with a knife. That's the question. Here's another one to the list. Tarnagoyla da agma chad mishmoines feikasu. The tarnagoyla found in this specific tarnagoyla is one of the 8 sveikas. V'ainu mardu, and that's the mardu on that list. Mardu, right? Omar Papa. Here's an interesting distinction. Tarnagoyla da agma asira. The chicken called Tarnagoyla da agma, which has a male sounding name, Tarnagoyla versus Tarnagoyles, right? Asira, that's asr. Tarnagolta, it sounds like a female, but actually, Farshim explained, it's not male and female of the same exact variety. It would be impossible that the male is, one is kosher, one is not. It's just another name for a slightly different variety. So one is called Tarnagoyla, one is called Tarnagolta da agma. That's shari, that's okay, that's mutar. A good way to remember, Amoinis. We all know the halacha that a member of the Amoin nation cannot join Klal Yisrael, but only the males. But the females are allowed to join our community. So, in similar fashion, the female sounding, Tarnagolta is okay versus the Tarnagoyla. Dorish Mareimar. Mareimar taught that Tarnagolta da agma is asira. He says that actually, even Tarnagolta was later deemed to be non-kosher. Why? Initially they figured it was okay, but then they saw that it's doiris, it grabs, it's prey, it eats it off the ground. That's a sign of tumah. Vainu gerusa, and that's that bird that also has a different name called gerusa. Amarab, a bird called shavar an darpata, that's okay, shari, that's one of the kosher. But piruz an darpata, similar sounding names, but very different. Asr, that's non-kosher v'samanech. A sign to remember is Piruz Rashia. They had a wicked fellow in those days. His name was Piruz. So the bird, which has a similar name, Piruz Andarpta, and Darpata is Asr. Amrav Huna. A bird called Bunya is Shari, is Mutar, is okay, but Parva, no, that's Asr. Simarech. A good way to remember this one, Parva Amagusha. There was a fellow in those days. His name was Parva, and he was Amagusha. He was a magician. He wasn't an upstanding fellow, so the bird with a similar name is Asr. Amra Papa, a bird called Mardu Zagid Va'achel, he's okay, he's shari, he's from the kosher type. But Zagid Va'achel is Asr. Semanach, a good way to remember the difference between these two is, well, Zagid means he bows down. And I meant to bow to idols. So that bird is not kosher. Amra Shmuel, a bird called Shas Yachamra, the one that drinks wine, is Asr, Asira. But V'semanach, a good way to recall this one is Sh'tzuyayim Psul La'avoida. A kohen who drinks wine cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So this is a wine-drinking bird, so to speak. This name indicates non-kosher. V'amar Shmuel, a bird called Mazga Chamra Asira. Mazga Chamra is also, return to the next page. But Bas Mazga Chamra, the bird with a similar name, Bas, the daughter of the Mazga Chamra, a different type of bird, that's from the kosher type, it's Shaya, Simanech. A good way to remember this one is, well, Yofa Koyach Haben Koyach Ha'av. There's a halacha where we find that sometimes the son, the offspring, has an advantage over his father regarding monetary issues. This is discussed in Maseches Shvuos. So just as a way to remember, so the offspring, in this case the bas, the offspring, so to speak, of the mazga itself is non-kosher, but the bird called bas mazga is considered kosher. Okay, so we had Rav Nachman to start off. He tells us, be careful. Before you eat, you got to know what's going on. Recognize, be familiar with the birds, study the different types and the names and the species, and you know that you're safe. According to Rav Ashi, we're not concerned about the Paris of Osnia because they're not found in urban areas. We spoke about many different types of birds. According to Rav Lezer, birds which are similar to the Eirav are regarded as such. We had the Rashi bringing the Gemara Bava Kama because he associates with them, which indicates that he's part of that species. Chacham disagree with that. We discussed using the original Ezav, the original Teirin, and what qualifies as such. We discussed a list of birds which are kosher, non-kosher, and the ones in the middle which are unknown. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.